Hey guys, so today we're going to talk about Dragon Ball Daima episode 11 titled Legend. I'll give a synopsis of the episode, give my thoughts, and we'll talk about what happened. As usual, spoiler alert, going to talk about the entire episode essentially, so if you have not watched it or you don't want to get spoiled, then I recommend you don't watch this video yet until you do watch the episode and then come back and watch it after that. So this was a pretty good episode. It was pretty action-packed. There was a lot going on. It was a pretty eventful episode, I think. So the episode starts out essentially right where the episode 10 finished off, where they're about to leave the Namekian homeworld, and then we saw Neva, I guess, yeah, because the Japanese dub calls him Neba, because Neba is like an actual word, but the English dub calls him Neva. I'm not actually sure why they changed that to Neva, so whatever. So Neva comes out walking towards the ship, and so everybody goes out to meet him and see what he wants. No, I don't think anybody knows who he is actually amongst the crew. Yeah, because he only worked with Goma in the beginning. So everyone walks out. I'll just read through my notes because this will help remind me of exactly what happened. Episode starts with Neva walking over to the crew's spaceship on the original Namekian homeworld. Everyone exits the ship to meet him. Immediately Neva sees that they've obtained a Dragon Ball and starts dancing in excitement. Yeah, so he kind of reminds me of Elder Kai a little bit, like his personality. They're both like super old, but they're both also just like really just silly, I guess. I don't know, that's the best way to describe it. Piccolo actually recognizes Neva and calls him the quote-unquote legendary Namekian. And then Neva says Piccolo looks like Katatsu. So if you guys don't know who Katatsu is the father of the Nameless Namekian, who becomes Kami and Demon King Piccolo. The Nameless Namekian splits himself into two entities, essentially, Kami and Demon King Piccolo. That's how Kami is able to become the guardian of the earth, because he sheds his evil half, essentially. And Katatsu is the father of the Namekian who becomes Kami and Demon King Piccolo. So this Piccolo, the one that we know, is essentially the grandchild of of Katatsu. So Katatsu, obviously, he originated on this Namekian homeworld in the demon realm. So Neva says, "You look like Katatsu." So yeah, I guess he knew him back then. Piccolo says that he is a descendant of Katatsu. Yeah, he's the grandchild of Katatsu, and tells the other. Oh yeah, and then he tells everyone else that Neva is the one who's behind turning everybody into kids. So they talk about that a little bit. They're like, "Oh, why did you do that?" He's like, "Oh, Goma told me to." He's like, "I need to reduce the threat level of all the Z fighters so that we don't get tracked down and attacked." But even though that's happening right now, they talk about the Dragon Balls, and Neva says he's the one that created the Tamagami and that he wants the others to take him along with them. He says that they need to speak Namekian in order to summon the dragon, since Piccolo doesn't know how to speak the language. Yeah, because Piccolo says, oh, he was raised on Earth, so he never really learned how to speak Namekian. I thought there was a scene in the 23rd World Tournament where Piccolo speaks to Kami in Namekian. Am I wrong about that? Maybe I'm just misremembering. I thought there was a scene in the original Dragon Ball 23rd World Tournament where Piccolo speaks to Kami in Namekian. I thought there was. Maybe I'm just misremembering. But yeah, Piccolo says he doesn't know how to speak Namekian, so they need Neva, once they gather all the Dragon Balls, to actually summon the dragon by speaking Namekian. So they're on the ship, and they're basically talking with each other, and I think Bulma's the one who asks Neva, like, do you live all alone? Because remember, the Namekian homeworld is essentially abandoned at this point, so there's no one there. Neva is like the only person there living there. He says, yeah, he lives there alone, even though it can get lonely sometimes, but he didn't leave since he likes the Namekian homeworld, so he's kind of just there by himself. And then cuts to Vegeta saying that this time he's going to be the one to fight the next Tamagami, since Goku's already had a chance to fight one earlier. And then Neva, so essentially it turns into like Goku and Vegeta sort of like arguing over who gets to fight the next Tamagami. And then Neva's like very curious that you guys are so excited to fight these like extremely powerful Tamagami. And then I forget who says to Neva, but she's like, oh yeah, they like fighting. I think it's probably Bulma. So now we cut back to Marba's house, who we have Arinsu, Majin, and Marba all gathered around a new cauldron, and it does look like they are trying to create a new Majin. So Dr. Rinsu and Majin Ku return to Marba's house. It appears as if they're making their Majin since they have some sort of they actually have some of Majin Buu's essence left over that they didn't use last time. So they use that. It's sort of like fast forwards through what we already know, because we already saw them create Majin Ku, and it's basically the same process. So they use the other Cyberman seed. Remember, she has one Cyberman seed left. She used the first one. She had two. She used the first one to create Majin Ku, and now she's using the second one. So she says, like, okay, we're going to use this Cyberman seed. And they this time decide to plant it 20 centimeters into the mixture. I think Marba originally says, we'll do 10 centimeters. And then Dr. Rinsu was like, no, let's do 20. So they decide to do 20 centimeters. Marba instructs Rinsu to insert her saliva into the mixture. And Majin Ku is actually the one who puts the Cyberman seed into the mixture, and then he has a ruler. I love Majin Ku is probably my favorite new character in the series just because how funny he is. He has a ruler. He's measuring exactly 20 centimeters into the I guess soil is what we can call it, into the soil to plant the Cyberman seed to make sure it's exactly 20 centimeters down. He asks Rinsu if this makes them siblings, and then Rinsu's like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, Rinsu is just so fed up with Majin Ku at this point. He's essentially just a worthless creation. So yeah, I guess Majin Ku and then this new Majin are going to be siblings. So Ku waters the seed, and they wait anxiously, and then the same exact almost animation plays out where there's like a growth that happens in the cauldron, and it just like sort of erupts out of it. And there's a new Majin born, and then Dr. Rinsu's like, Marba, what should we call this one? And then she's like, Majin Do is the name of the new Majin. So Majin Do, actually, I should pull up an image of him. Let me just scroll up here a little bit. So this is, we can take a look at some of the images so far we've talked about. This is Neva talking to the crew here. This is him saying that you need to be able to speak Namekian in order to summon the dragon. This is them using the leftover essence from Majin Buu that they didn't use the first time. This is Ku. Yeah, this perfectly embodies the relationship between Majin Ku and Dr. Rinsu. Majin Ku just looks at her like with a smile, and she's like, "Stop talking to me." So here's the new Majin Do. He looks very similar to Fat Buu. I mean, obviously not as big as Fat Buu, but he looks very similar to Fat Buu. We can pull up a better image here. In fact, I think the official account might have posted a. Let me pause. I think the official account posted a like high quality image. Let me pull that up real quick. All right, so here we go. Yeah, here is the new character Majin Do. So we have Majin Ku, Majin Do now, and then of course we have the original Majin Buu. So this one is born. And then immediately, like he's born and he appears, and then immediately he just starts screaming. Very, very reminiscent of Kid Buu. How Kid Buu used to do like the screaming and beating his chest. This guy wasn't beating his chest, but he just did a scream. Let me see. He immediately starts screaming and says that he wants to eat chocolate. So yeah, I could already tell. This is probably my favorite scene of the episode. Majin Ku then asks Rinsu for some money so that he can go to the convenience store to grab some chocolate. So he returns instantly and gives Do the chocolate. He's like, okay, he breaks it in half. He's like, okay, this is your half and this is my half. So Do eats his half, and then he also eats Majin Ku's half as well. It's just like this very cartoony, I guess, like brotherly relationship that they have, and you can tell it's gonna be like an established thing. And I think I mentioned this a little bit with Majin Ku. I think it was last week. His personality is something that I think we could tell is something that's going to allow him to last a long time as a side character. And I could definitely see after Daima ends, if they revisit a lot of these Daima characters later on in Super or whatever, that Ku and Do are going to probably be involved, and they can be pretty interesting and funny, I think. So Do asks Rinsu what he should do, and she tells him to go beat Tagami number 1, but it seems, and she seems very suspicious that he'll actually be able to. She's like, I guess you can go try and beat Tagami number 1, and then, she's kind of like very suspicious that he's actually going to be able to win. So this is the scene where he wakes up, he screams, he goes for the chocolate. Yeah, look at this. Let's pull this up here. This is some good stuff. Yeah, look at the two new Majins. And obviously Majin Do does have the head antenna thing. And he has the holes as well, I guess, on his arms, whereas Majin Ku has it only on his head, I think. All right. So yeah, we get to this part as well. Let me keep going here. So then it cuts back to, so it's sort of like cutting back between Goku and everyone, and then Dr. Rinsu and the Majins. So it cuts back to Goku and the others reaching Tamagami number 2's location at the same time that Do reaches Tamagami number 1. So Majin Do announces that he wants to fight, and then Ku is kind of like cheering him on from the sidelines. He's like a cheerleader almost. So the fight starts, and it's Majin Do versus Tamagami number 1. Now, we already know that Majin Ku stood 0 chance against Tamagami number 1, so we kind of know that, you know, Tamagami number 1, I think we could probably assume that he's just as strong as the other ones. I don't know if he's stronger or weaker, but he's probably in the same ballpark as 2 and 3, I would imagine. So Majin Do is like bouncing all over the place. He's like bouncing off the walls. He's bouncing off the ground. He's got a very different fighting style to Majin Ku's fighting style. He's even probably more erratic. He starts bouncing off the walls and starts berating Tamagami number 1 with punches and kicks. And there's one scene where Tamagami number 1 shoots an energy blast at Majin Do, and Majin Do immediately copies him. And it looks like it's the first time he learned how to use energy blast. I mean, it makes sense because he was just created. But that's what this scene is right here. Let me just pull this up. Pull this up here. So this is them, like him sort of like bouncing around and slamming into everything. And then he gets shot with an energy blast. And then he's like, oh, I could do that too, right? And then he blasts himself in the face with it. So this, to me, is supposed to obviously be a comedic scene, but this actually, I think, is a pretty important scene in this episode because it illustrates that he has the same mimicry that Majin Buu did. Remember, when Majin Buu was fighting Goku, he was copying a lot of his moves. He copied the Kamehameha almost instantly. So the fact that we have this guy now copying the energy blast from Tamagami number 1, I think that, to me, says that this guy is the real deal. This is not a Majin Ku number 2. This is a real, this is a real strong character here. I don't know if he's going to be able to send up like Super Saiyan 3 Goku, but he's competent at least, is what it looks like to me. So let me get rid of these images now. So that's sort of what we have going on in this fight initially. Vegeta faces off. Let me see if there's better images here. Yeah, so Vegeta is now facing off against Tamagami number 2 and tells him that he's here to claim the Dragon Ball. And then Tamagami number 2 says that he's still a kid and not to joke around and like basically to buzz off and get lost. But then Tamagami number 2 sees that Neva is there, and he's like, I actually have to, be like respectful. He's like, oh, my bad, sir. he's like, sorry about that. I guess this is actually a real fight. So they're very respectful towards Neva. Obviously, Neva's the one who created them. So there's kind of like this, I guess, like master and servant, not servant, but master and subservient relationship sort of thing going on between the Tamagami and Neva. So they start fighting, and initially base Vegeta is definitely able to put up a good fight. It's very similar to how the Goku versus Tamagami number 3 fight went, where Goku was fighting pretty well in base form, and Vegeta was fighting pretty well in base form. I think this might be the first time we actually see blood in Daima, is when Vegeta gets cut. Remember, Tamagami number 2 has like a trident, so he's using this trident. Looks like all the Tamagami have different weapons, because I think number 1 has a sword, 2 has a trident, and then the number 3 guy had a hammer, right? So this guy's got a trident because I guess it's just because there's water in the second demon realm. I guess that makes sense. So Vegeta gets cut by the trident, and then he gets blasted into the water. And then as he's in the water, he actually meets up with that monster from the prior episode, like the giant octopus thing. So he gets blasted into the water, and then he's like about to get sucked up in the monster's mouth. But he flies out of the water, and then he gets pelted back down. So Tamagami number 2 is actually waiting for Vegeta to pop back out of the water. Kind of reminded me of the Goku versus Frieza fight on Namek. I always go back to that because I'm so familiar with it because I've watched it so many times. But there was a part where Goku and Frieza were fighting, and I think it was Frieza who knows exactly where Goku's going to emerge from the water and just like pelts him back down. That's what happens in this one. And Tamagami number 2 pelts Vegeta back into the water, and he actually gets launched into the mouth of the monster, and that is the end of the episode. I actually forgot to mention some other stuff going on with this fight, but after he blasts himself in the face here, Majin Do, it definitely does seem to me like, because there's cut-ins of Tamagami number 1's facial expressions, Tamagami number 1, of course, has now fought Majin Ku, so I think Tamagami number 1 was probably expecting Do to be very similar to Ku in power level, but you can see his facial expressions are like very worried throughout the fight. And there are definitely parts in this fight where Majin Do is putting the work in against Tamagami number 1. He's punching and kicking him, and he's like I don't know, it's very hard to describe unless you actually watch the fight. He's like swimming, so they're obviously both flying, but he's like swimming around him, and like it's very, very weird. His fighting style is very strange. He's like climbing over him, and he's like sitting on him. But I think to me it seems pretty obvious that Majin Do is going to win this fight. So that is the end of the episode. And then next preview for next week, it does show Vegeta. I mean, this is obviously not, this is clearly misdirection. Vegeta's not going to lose this fight. But it shows the continuation of the Vegeta versus Tamagami number 2 fight. And then we have the Tamagami number 1 versus Majin Do fight. Again, to me, oh yeah, I should show this as well. He does this a lot in this fight, and where he's like hiding his head in his like body. Remember, Kid Buu did this a lot. So this is I don't want to say copied technique from Kid Buu, but it is essentially Kid Buu's technique. So he's able to hide his head in like his body to avoid attacks. But to me, it seems pretty obvious that Majin Do is going to win this fight against Tamagami number 1. And it looks like this is a character, much like Majin Buu, that is able to quickly learn techniques, and probably somebody who's going to get way stronger as he fights more. So that is where we are here. By the way, the next episode is called Sokojikara, which is basically like hidden power. So I don't know what that's referring to. I think it's probably a reference to Majin Do. Like he's going to unleash his hidden power versus Tamagami number 1. But that is it. There's a pretty eventful episode. We had some bit of lore in the beginning with Neva. We had action on 2 ends with the Tamagami number 2 and 3. Or not Tamagami number 2 and 1. The birth of a new Majin, a new character. And the first time we've seen Vegeta fight for real, right? We saw Vegeta fighting like those guys from the bar, but this is the first real time we've seen Vegeta fight. I imagine next week, during episode 12, we will see Vegeta go Super Saiyan. And I can't really see either of these fights going past episode 12. They're probably both going to wrap up in episode 12. And then I'm pretty excited to see where we go from there, because at that point we will have all the Tamagami defeated, I presume. And I think at that point we're on a crash course trajectory to where we're going to have the Goku and Vegeta and all those, the crew with Neva meet up with Arinsu in the 3rd Demon Realm, because they're going to want to go to the 3rd Demon Realm to go to Tamagami number 1. Or the 1st Demon Realm, sorry, to Tamagami number 1, and they're not, they're probably going to arrive and figure out that he's defeated already. So it's going to be some kind of, Goku and Vegeta have the 3 and 2-star Dragon Balls. Dr. Arinsu has the 1-star Dragon Ball, and they meet up, and now it's going to be like Goku versus Majin Do, and then you have Haibisu with the 3rd eye, and Goma's in the 1st Demon Realm. So I think things are going to get pretty crazy towards the end of the series here. But I think at least this episode was definitely pretty eventful, and I enjoyed it. So let me know what you guys think of episode episode 11. And let me know what you think of the new Majin Do. I don't even know, like Majin Buu Jr., Fat Buu Jr. is essentially who this is. I don't know. He's a Cyberman base Fat Buu. So hope you guys enjoyed. Looking forward to what you guys have to say about this episode, and I will see you in the next one.